Have you had the experience of trying to come up with a speech, but you found that you're spending more time staring at a blank computer screen, experiencing writer's block, not knowing how to build a speech or where to come up with ideas for that speech? Don't worry, you are not the only one. Coming up with content for a speech is very difficult. But in this video, I'm going to give you a few ideas so you can hopefully get past the writer's block stage and just spend time focusing, honing in on that speech to make it the best speech possible. Hey everyone, my name is Wade Patterson, and my whole YouTube channel is about helping make you a better communicator, a better public speaker. And if that is something you're interested in, please subscribe to my channel, turn on those notifications so that you never miss a brand new video. It would mean so much to me, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video on how to come up with content ideas for a speech. All right, let's jump into those ideas for how you can come up with content for your next speech. And the first thing, of course, that you need to think about is what type of speech is it? Because there are many different types of speeches. A speech could be considered a presentation you deliver in front of your office at work. That's probably going to be a very different speech than if you're giving a toast to the bride or toast to the groom at a wedding, and probably humor is a little bit more expected in that type of speech. So identifying first, what is the theme, what is the formalities of the speech that you're doing, and from there, obviously, the next pieces of advice, some will be more relevant than others. An overall great starting place for you to first start thinking about how you're going to come up with content ideas in the future is to start a note. You can do it right within your phone or on a Word document on your computer, but list out your best stories. All of them, all of the stories you can think of. And you may be wondering, well, how do I know what my best stories are? I want you to think about when you're with family or friends and there's those stories that you've told a few times and you know that whenever you tell them, they go over really well. So maybe they're funny stories, usually that's the case, and they get laughter from your friends or family. Those are great stories. Write a list of those stories out. Or maybe you have really unique situations, things that have happened where the probability was low on that thing happening. One example I think about myself is a time I was in Vegas and I was sitting at a blackjack table and I happened to put a $5 bet on one of the bonus areas and I hit the absolute top bonus and won something like $2,000. That's not a funny story, but it's a really rare and unique story. Maybe you won, maybe not the lottery, but some sort of 50-50 draw and you won a bunch of money. So if it's that related, that's a unique story. Maybe that's something that's interesting. Or perhaps you met a celebrity and had an interesting interaction with that person. Again, these are memorable stories. So whether it's funny, whether it's unique, write all of those stories down and have that in a place where it's easy, where you can add to that list in the future. A good friend of mine actually does this, and she has some of the best stories you've ever heard, and it's a note in her phone. And what we literally do, my wife and I, when we meet up with her, we tell her to pull out her list of stories, and they're based on titles only, and we randomly pick two different titles, and she shares the story behind whatever that title is, and they're hilarious. Like, this person just has so many amazing stories, but that's the exact idea that you want to do. You want to build a list and have as many great story ideas as possible. If you're still struggling to think up what could be on this list, focus on self-deprecating stories. In other words, what are some embarrassing moments that you've had? And you can't always share those with the general audience. Sometimes it's not appropriate, but any stories that are appropriate, write those down. And even some of the ones that maybe are on the edge, still add them to that list and categorize it. What I found over time, and I have another video that talks about why self-deprecating humor is so powerful, but those stories, when we are the victims of embarrassment, they go over so well with the audience. So include self-deprecating stories as part of that list. So why am I asking you to build a big list of personal stories? I truly believe that almost any speech can be more effective, more impactful if it includes personal stories. Audiences connect with personal stories, and if you're trying to tell them about data or logistics or boring subjects that are really data heavy and hard to keep our attention on, instantly you can make it more powerful if you can give a real life example that somehow ties to it. I'm not asking you to tell a story out of left field that has nothing to do about the presentation that you're delivering, but if you can make some sort of connection, but you include personal stories, it's going to have a much better impact on the audience, and they're going to remember the information going forward because they'll be able to tie it to that story that you told, and it will help their memory in the future. Okay, so we've talked about personal stories, which is probably the biggest content source that you're going to have and can work with a lot of speeches. Sometimes they're a whole speech on their own, but even for longer presentations, half hour, 1 hour, 2 hour presentations, sometimes you might even have 2 or 3 personal stories you embed in that speech, and that's going to really help fill out the speech and make it more interesting to listen to. A second idea or option of where you can come up with content ideas is current events. Trending topics are an incredible source of information for your future speeches, and there's 2 reasons for this. One, audiences are probably going to learn something. So if something is happening that is brand new, a trending topic, current events, either your audience knows about it or they don't. And if they don't know about it, you are going to educate them. You're going to teach them what this brand new thing is. Therefore, that alone, they're going to find value in. You've taught them something new that they didn't know about previously. But even if they know about the trending topic or information, it's still a positive to use this in your speech because they will know your content is fresh. It's new. As an example, if a speaker in March 2023 is talking about the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT, you know that that speech is not one they've been recycling for years and years and years and just regurgitating and talking about. ChatGPT's only been out for a few months. So if somebody is speaking about that in the relatively near future, you know that this is a speech or a section of a speech that they've built pretty recently. And that's a good feeling as the audience to know that you're getting something that's fresh, something that's probably original, as compared to those speakers who year over year talk about the exact same thing over and over and over. It's nice to know that you're getting new content. Speaking of ChatGPT, that brings me to my third tip of where you can get content ideas, and that is it. A great content source is the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT. Now, I'm not telling you to go use ChatGPT and ask it to write a full speech for you based on something. I mean, you can do that, but that's getting into the borderline, like you want to put your own touch on it. But what I would suggest is use it for a tool to get you past that stage of writer's block. As an example, if you want to tell people why Edmonton is an amazing place to live and you want to build a speech about that, you could type into ChatGPT, give me 20 reasons why Edmonton is the best city to live in Canada. ChatGPT will deliver that list, and from there you can pick and choose certain themes or ideas, maybe tweak them depending on the context of your speech, but you can use those ideas in your speech as examples. You may not use every single one on the list, but that's not the purpose of ChatGPT. The purpose is to help you use it as a tool to give you that research, that information, and then you take that information and you make it your own. We are in the first inning of how this artificial intelligence tool can be used, but I guarantee this can be a great content source if you ever get stuck. Final piece of advice for where you can come up with content for your next speech is to think about things you are passionate about. Incorporate those things that you care about, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to deliver a dry, boring presentation, It's going to be hard to make your audience excited about that. But if you can find a way to inject your own flavor or things that you are passionate about within that speech, it's going to be so much more powerful because your effort level is going to go up and the audience is going to connect as well. I've seen many coworkers of mine in the past truly struggle as they try to deliver presentations that maybe they inherited from another individual, and so it doesn't have their own touch on it, and it's dry data information, and they really struggle to communicate it in an effective way. But instead, ask yourself, what am I passionate about and how could I inject that into this speech? For example, maybe you are somebody who works in technology, but you're passionate about photography. You could use powerful images that you've taken over the previous years and use those on slides that somehow relate to the technology that you're talking about. Or perhaps you're Taylor Swift's biggest fan and you're trying to talk about the future of analytics. Use lyrics from Taylor Swift's songs that relate to the analytics that you're trying to speak about and somehow make a tie-in that way. I don't know, be as creative as you want, but what I'm trying to say is that if you add a unique flavor or spice that is something unusual, and especially if you can even title your speech after that, like analytics based on Taylor Swift or something like that, it's going to connect so much more powerfully with your audience. It's going to be an interesting speech or a more interesting speech to actually listen to. And it's something that you're going to enjoy doing more than trying to regurgitate someone else's boring presentation. I hope that this video has been a helpful source of where you can go to find content in the future, because there's nothing worse than being stuck in that writer's block phase. But we have enough tools, we have enough access to things, and hopefully this video gives you the confidence that you won't have to stay in that writer's block phase for long. You can get past it. And not only that, you can use these tips to make your future speeches way more interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune into this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that. I'm going to be putting out a lot more video content about how to make you a more impactful communicator. Thank you so much to everyone who is already subscribed, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are looking for a little bit of coaching help with your next speech, I am providing one-on-one evaluations. My contact email is in the video description. Reach out to me and let's discuss what that could look like.